No. Oh, now you're live, Mark.
Now I'm live. What happened to the live? What
I
happened?
don't know. We were in a little bit of a delay, but hey, we're live. That's all that
Hey,
matters.
well, we're glad we're
We're
reporting
live on tape delay.
and
Yeah.
not from the moon. Hey, guys, we're glad
We're
to
all
be
together,
back
by
here.
the way.
What's that?
We're all together.
Yeah.
It's not like a spaceship launch where you can't retake it. That's
Mhm.
good.
Are we going to start floating in the air and things like that right now? Does that happen?
Feels that way sometimes.
Hey, we're all set to go against the spread, guys. This is going to be a great show we've got on tap today. Joining us is Jim Feist, the legend himself from Las Vegas, Andy Iskoe, the original AI from TheLogicalApproach.com in Las Vegas, and our producer extraordinaire, Greg DePalma from Prime Sports Network, as we get set to go against the spread on the card this particular week. I want to remind you that Jim is going to be joining us primarily for NFL football this season. College football, he'll be watching from a distance, but his money all goes into the National Football League. We want to hear what he has to say on the show here today. Also, a reminder once again that we'll be offering our Beat the Pros football contest where you can compete for cash prizes, giveaways, and earn the title of Beating the Pro Line Pros. On the show, we'll be starting out with the NFL beginning next week. Stay tuned when you log in next week for our NFL football show here on ProLine TV. And also, as promised, we're back on the ATS podcast with our NFL predictions and a look at what was the week 0 card. Now we're moving into week 1 of college football. But before we get to that, I want to remind everybody out there, if you haven't done so yet, please click the like button and subscribe. And also, while you're there, ring the bell. You'll do us a big favor by doing just that. Subscribe if you like what we're doing here, and I'm pretty sure you're going to like that. Okay, let's see what we've got on tap for ProLine TV, our panels here today. I'm going to welcome everybody. And Jim Feist, Las Vegas. I know you've been back and forth in Cleveland, Ohio, my hometown, but it sounds like you're back in Vegas these days.
Well, I spent 9 days in Cleveland. I'm going to write a book about it, 9-day vacation in the summer of 25 in Cleveland, and it will not be a bestseller.
I don't even think it's going to get to the print.
And I do have a guarantee. The Saints,
What's that?
Saints or the Browns will not win the Super Bowl. It's a guarantee.
You're taking one from each conference, then, is what you're saying.
I mean, I say parlay it.
Okay.
Neither one is going to win the Super Bowl.
Well, I have to think you're right, Jim. Even though you're trashing my city, I happen to think you're right.
They're actually battling for the
I was there for 9 days, and you were not there.
That's true. You have a little more taste of it than I do here recently of late.
They're battling for the Arch Manning Bowl, and it's really interesting because you have the two franchises that, well, at least I shouldn't say Cleveland, but it's interesting if you look at the Colts, who are also going to get into the Arch Manning sweepstakes when the season ends, and the Saints. That's going to be a very interesting offseason because the Saints are going to end up more than likely with the first pick in the draft. And if they do, they're going to pick Arch Manning if he's available. But let's say if they finish with the second or the third pick and the Colts get like the 15th pick or something like that, well, then that's going to be real interesting in the offseason because the Colts want Arch Manning. And because of their history, and the Saints want Arch Manning because of their history. So that will be a really interesting kind of back and forth. Obviously, the Saints have a much bigger advantage because they'll only be a spot or two away, and they can make it a little easier. Draft capital, giveaways, things of that nature. But then again, if the Cleveland Browns end up with the top pick, then I don't think they're going to give away any of those draft picks, and they'll probably be the one to pick Arch Manning unless he decides to hold out and say, I don't want to go to Cleveland.
You know what's ironic? The Browns have been back and forth with 4 and 5 quarterbacks in camp, and they're going to ultimately end up, as you mentioned here, maybe perhaps in the Arch Manning sweepstakes. And that's if Arch Manning decides to even enter the draft. So they've got a lot of mediocre quarterbacks on that program or that football team this year, all perhaps hoping to roll the dice for next year.
Mark, didn't Arch Manning's grandfather play for the Saints and they wore the bags over their head? They were called the Aints.
Yes.
Oh my God. Would he
Archie Manning? Yes.
That was the mid 1970s.
Would he really want to go back there?
I might be wrong, but I think Archie Manning still lives in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And it's where the Mannings really.
If Arch turns out to be what he's expected to be, he could be the starter next year.
He could be the mayor of New Orleans also. Yeah.
What did I miss commenting on, guys? I apologize for an important call that came in.
Oh, nothing, Andy, at all. We're gonna hop into the NFL football waters right now while we have Jim. Lucky to have Jim here right now to open up the football show. And with that, let's do this, guys. Let's go around the table, and we're going to share a couple of subjects here. Find out. I'm going to get some picks from each of you guys. If you have them, be sure to share them. If you don't, and you don't like anything, be sure to pass. But this show, we want to declare our selections in the National Football League before the season begins. And with that, Andy, I'm going to start with you. The NFL division playoff leans, okay? Anything out of the playoff scene as far as divisions are concerned with the National Football League that you want us to know about?
Well, when it sort of correlates with season win totals, because normally, I tend to look more unders than overs, but if I'm looking for overs, I'm generally concentrating on those teams that I think have an excellent chance at making the playoffs. And you can now, at a lot of these sports books online and here in Nevada, they have propositions, will or won't make the playoffs. And that could be somewhat of a guide as well, but you're not going to be 100% in alignment with what the pluses and the minuses are. Obviously, if a team has a better than a 50-50 chance of making the playoffs, according to the odds makers, you're going to lay a vig on the yes, that they will. And if they don't have a chance, like, for example, let's say the New Orleans Saints, you're going to get a hefty little you're going to have to lay a hefty little vig on the no, that they won't make the playoffs. I don't know what the Saints are, but I would imagine they're probably in the -3 to 400 range, because nobody expects them to win more than 4 or 5 games. So when I take a look at that, it's sort of correlated. Are you looking now for the 4 division winners and the 3 playoff teams?
Any comment you want to make, Andy, about the
Okay.
about the divisions, okay? Whether you want to put the 4 teams there or not, what we should be surprised at. Anything you want to comment about the NFL division play this year?
Okay, well, I'm going to go with Philadelphia to win the East. I'm going to go with Minnesota to win the North. And this is a little bit different, I think, than we talked about last week, because I had a couple of days to think about it and evaluate. In fact, for the Vikings, well, I'll get to it later. One of the things hopefully we will do at this is what we expect the Super Bowl matchup to be, what we think the dream super matchup might be, and maybe a bit of a long shot of a realistic couple of playoff teams that aren't being considered Super Bowl contenders that just might surprise. So we can get to that. In the South, I guess I have to still go with Tampa Bay. And in the West, I'm going to go with the Rams. I like the Rams quite a bit. As far as the playoff teams, I sort of picked a long shot with the Giants in the East last week, but going with Washington as a wild card. I'm going to go with Detroit as a wild card. And I'm also going to go with Atlanta as a wild card. I think those 3 teams have a chance to. I don't know how far they can go in the playoffs. I expect some regression from Washington. So that's my look at the NFC.
You're saying the Giants and Washington both make the playoffs?
No. I last week when we did the show, I think I had the Giants finishing second, just ahead of Washington in the NFC East when we did the NFC East preview. And of course they could finish tied for second with the same record, but I do give Washington the edge as far as if they do indeed tie. I think Washington wins tiebreakers.
Well, we're going to open this up to the AFC as well, Andy. Last week we covered the NFC exclusively.
Right.
Now we're down to what will happen between both conferences.
Okay,
who will be the teams in the divisions this year? So I've got your NFC stuff down. What about the AFC side of things?
All right. Now, after having a few weeks to think about it, I'm going Buffalo to win the AFC East. That's no big surprise. Baltimore in the North. In the South, I'm going to go with a surprise this year. I'm going to go with Jacksonville to win the South. I like what I've seen out of this team, both offense and defense. And by default, I almost have to go with Kansas City in the West until you beat them. I mean, they may not win pretty like last year, although I think they'll be a little bit better, but they still have that experience. And I don't think there's anyone who wouldn't want Patrick Mahomes to lead a game-defining drive. As far as the wild card goes, I'm going to go with Denver and the LA Chargers to make the playoffs. And my third wild card team will be Houston in the AFC South.
Okay, and we'll save the Super Bowl for the end of this segment for the NFL segment side of things. Greg DePalma, how do you see your pick shaping out as far as the divisions and also when we move into championship play?
Well, the only surprise, let's see, in the AFC, I guess if I was going to pick one, would be the Colts. So Andy will go with Jacksonville. So I'll go with the Colts. Both think that maybe if there is a surprise, maybe Houston's the vulnerable team in the AFC South. They're 4-1, the Colts. And in the NFC, as we talked about recently, I agree with Andy on Minnesota, the Rams, Washington. But the main play I'm going to do for an alternate, because we've talked about that before too. You've got the opportunity to take a look at division winners. I'll even pop it up on the screen here so you can take a look at it. Let's see. Here we go. Pop it up here. This is the division specials from Draft Kings. So my top division special is going to be taking two teams, two picks. I'm going to go Rams with Cardinals second for 10-1 and Rams with Seattle second at 11-1. So that's going to be the main division special that I'm going to play this year, is going to be the Rams to win and basically San Francisco not finishing in second. I hit both of those. All I need is one to win and I'll make money off of it.
So it sounds like you're putting a lot of your eggs in the Rams basket this football season.
In fact, Greg, if you're looking at it, you actually would have San Francisco finishing fourth in the division, since that's the one team that you're not playing, unless your selection on Arizona and Seattle to finish second is based more on the odds than what you think the division finish might be.
Correct. Yeah, I'm just banking on. I think Seattle and Arizona have a good chance of finishing in second, and therefore, since I like the Rams to win the division, I might as well take this bet, these two bets, and if one of them do happen to finish ahead of San Francisco and the Rams win the division, then I hit one of them. So I'll be in good shape.
Interesting question. If that's the case and it happens that way, what would be the price for San Francisco to finish fourth in that division?
Oh, wow. They don't have that, but that would be interesting.
Yeah, that would be. Considering you're favored to win the division, now you're saying to finish fourth. That had to be a hell of a. I don't know what the price is.
Yeah, you're asking a division favorite to finish last.
Yeah, it's got to be a huge price, because I think their season win total is 10.5.
If Greg's prediction is correct, they're going to finish fourth, and that's got to be a monster price.
Well, and interesting because and I talked to our San Francisco analyst, and that interview's on the channel, as is the interview I just did with our Arizona analyst a couple of days ago. And even a few other people who I've interviewed. And I will be doing Seattle tomorrow night, by the way, and hopefully the Rams in the next few days. But most people seem to agree with me when I go over this with them, that they're all surprised San Francisco is the favorite in the West and that they're this short a price. So most of the people I'm talking to agree with me. And I know we've talked about this, Jim, that why is San Francisco such a heavy favorite to win? And why are they even favored at all? With
too many historical injury concerns with key players, which is why I can't put them in the playoffs.
Well, the problem, of course, you got to look at the Rams. They're not going to be very competitive if Stafford goes down, and he has a history of that, and this whole back issue. And I don't know if it's real or not, or how real it really is, but he has been around a long time. He's taken a lot of hits over the years, especially in Detroit. So if they don't win and play well and make the playoffs, now it does open it up to Seattle, which has got a whole new regime there, which is a question mark how that's going to click. And then you have Arizona, who typically starts well, but then Murray falls off at the end of the year, and that's been so consistent in his history. Can he maintain a 17-game schedule without starting off really well first 8-9 games and then falling into the toilet? So there's a lot of question marks there. And then San Francisco, they still have a pretty good roster. They still have a pretty good coach, although I don't think he's a great coach. I think he's way overrated when it comes to the playoffs. But in regular season, he's pretty good. And Purdy is, I'm just repeating what Greg Cosell says. Purdy is a very good quarterback. He's a systems quarterback. He's not a Joe Burrow. He's not an Aaron Rodgers in his day. He's not that. But he's definitely a quality system quarterback, and that's what Kyle runs out there, and he does very well with it. So if they can stay healthy, picking up the running back to back up their number one running back, Mr. World, and keep him more fresh throughout the year. They picked up I don't remember who they picked it up from, but a couple of weeks ago or a couple of days ago, they picked up a backup to him, and it's going to take a lot of the handoffs away from him and and it's going to help them stay healthy.
All right, guys, I'm going to share this with you. I'm putting this in the coffee club this week, and it's going to be a real interesting read. And it's about NFL football teams going from worst to first, and how many times it's happened, how many times it hasn't happened, and who the leading teams or contenders would be this year from the 8 divisions. The number one choice, obviously, or not what we're talking about, from going from worst to first is San Francisco this year. The thing about San Francisco that I picked up on the notes of is they've only gone from worst to first one time in their franchise history. That was back in 1970. And in that year, they went from 4-8-2 last. They went 10-3-1 and made it to the NFC title game. That's what San Francisco.
By the way, excuse me, Mark, one
Yes.
thing to keep in mind is how many times has San Francisco finished last and had the opportunity to go from worst to first? Because I would think the history of the 49ers, certainly since the mid-1970s, probably haven't been too many last place finishes.
Well, I'm going to quote this article directly. The 49ers have only gone from worst to first a total of one time in their franchise history. So finishing last and then finishing first, it's only happened once for the 49ers.
Yeah, and remember, it wasn't too long ago before things really started to kick in for Shanahan, that they had that really bad stretch between Harbaugh and then Shanahan picking things up.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they finished in last place 3 consecutive seasons. Things were not going well, and then boom, they went from 4-12 to a Super Bowl loss. And all of a sudden, San Francisco. But keep in mind too, San Francisco's been. They've had a couple of, even though Shanahan's had 4 runs either at the Super Bowl or the conference championship. His other non-conference championship or Super Bowl runs have either resulted in being in 4th or 3rd place. So it's like he either got, he's had his great season or he has a really bad season. There's no in between.
What's interesting about that, according to what Mark said, if they've only done it one time, that suggests to me that the year that Harbaugh took over and had that great initial year, he took them to the Super Bowl in the second year, but the year that he took over apparently was a year after in which I think 4-12, that apparently that was not a last place finish.
It might have been somebody worse that particular year. That probably had to be the case.
Well, there was a time during the, I think, early to mid teens that the NFC West was the weakest division in football as measured by the 4 teams' win-loss records combined.
Hey, let me put you guys in the spot here before we move on to Jim and get his picks and selections. Out of this talk, worst to first, San Francisco is the favorite to become that team, the number one favorite. They're at plus 155 on the leaderboard. Who do you feel is the second most popular team to go from worst to first, and they're at plus 550? Any thoughts or ideas from any of the panel?
I wouldn't say the Cleveland Browns.
No,
but I wouldn't be shocked because of their talent. Their talent does not perform. They don't perform according to their talent level. They've got some good talent on that team. Not the Raiders, though.
I'm going to jump in and say this is a wild guess, but because of the dysfunction in the division, other than the leading team, the Giants.
Well, that's a good guess. The Giants are number 5 on the list at plus 2,200. And they are obviously they're the choice because they were last place in the NFC East.
What are the 4? What were the last one? Maybe the Bears?
The Bears come in at number 3.
Bears are a 4th place team. And Pat wants to know, well, Pat actually brings up about whether or not I don't know why there are a lot of, I don't know who Pat's listening to, but if any of those analysts, Pat, you're listening to that has the Bears winning 11 or so games, don't stop listening to them.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not happening.
They will be improved, but not by that much.
No.
He's drinking too much Caleb Williams Kool-Aid is what he's doing.
Yeah. If Caleb Williams comes out there on Monday night, in a week from Monday and has this tremendous game, it's still not going to mean anything unless he keeps doing it over time, because even Browning Nagel for the New York Jets, I remember, had a 300+ passing game way back, and that was like the only good game he ever had in his career. So, and I even remember Sam Darnold had that big game in the first game of the season against the Detroit Lions on prime time. I think it was a Monday night game. So just keep that in mind. First games of the season mean nothing. But, yeah, we've already seen that Caleb Williams has not taken to the offense just yet. So it's going to take a while. So unless all of a sudden there's something that we're not seeing happens, I really am very surprised that some of the people that Pat's listening to actually believe that they could do that.
So
You know,
if
Mark,
no other
Mark,
guesses,
you're talking. The team that I think would have a chance, but for the division that they're in, might be the Patriots. They're getting a lot of love, but I cannot see them finishing ahead of Buffalo.
Andy, I'm going to ring the bell. You're right. The Patriots are the second choice on this list, plus 550 to win the AFC East. Now, that's not saying that they're going to beat Buffalo, but of the likelihood of the teams that finish in last place, they have the second best chance to do just that. Number 2, New England. The Bears were number 3. I'll finish this list out. Number 4 is the Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders at plus 1,200 out of the West, AFC West. Yeah. The Giants, I mentioned, number 5 out of the NFC East at plus 2,200. The Tennessee Titans at plus 700 out of the AFC South are number 6. Number 7, the New Orleans Saints. Here's a football program that we talked about, Jim saying possibly the worst team, at least in the NFC, plus 1,300 to win the South. And the 8th and worst team, the Cleveland Browns, plus 3,500 to win the North.
Now, I'll just make a quick comment on that because I would think, given the quality of competition of the other 3 teams in their division, I would think the odds for whoever, what did you say it was in the Tennessee in the AFC South, and who did you say in the NFC, the Saints? Not the Saints. Was it the Saints in the NFC South?
The Saints are the NFC South, yes, the longest.
And the Titans in the AFC South.
Yes.
Those were by far the 2 weakest divisions in football, I think, going back the last few years as well. So given the quality of competition, because in order to win that bet, the teams have to have a realistic chance of going from worst to first. It doesn't mean that the team at the bottom is going to be so much better. It just means that the teams above them are not all that great with a great amount of distance. So that's the reason why I'm surprised that those teams are as low as they are, given the competition that they would have to overtake in order to go to first.
Well, the Titans have never gone from worst to first, and the Saints, the last time they did that was in 2009, and what did they do? They won the Super Bowl that particular year. Yeah. So that's a good, interesting read, guys, and it will be in the Weekend Coffee Club. You can check that out at playbooksports.com to find out how I'll put that coffee club in your inbox each and every week. Check that out this particular weekend. Jim, I'm going to turn it back to you. We got to get some official picks here because I know Greg wants to chart these for the end of the football season here. Your choice, Jim, for the NFL division teams that will make the playoffs.
What I want to know is, what is the penalty for being wrong?
You don't want to know, Jim.
Depends on what country you're in,
hundreds of thousands of viewers and listeners can laugh at us.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. In the NFC, these are the teams I have making the playoffs, and I only have 6 of them, and which isn't enough. I like the Eagles. I like the Packers and the Lions. I like the Bucks and the Falcons, and I like the 49ers. And the only reason I eliminate the Rams is because of this issue with Stafford, because actually I feel the Rams, if Stafford is healthy, will win that division. So I would have to plug the Rams in there as my final playoff team. Now,
how about the AFC side of things, Jim?
Okay, the AFC's actually a little. Well, first of all, like I said, I mean the Jets, the Pats, Miami, the Browns. They're not the Titans, the Jags, the Colts. They're not winning any divisions, and the Raiders and Chargers are not going to win any divisions. So when it comes down to teams that are in,
you don't think the Chargers can win with Harbaugh and?
No. I do not think.
Or you think Kansas City's Jets that much better?
I don't think they did enough in the offseason to help themselves, and they losing the offensive lineman that they just paid a lot of money to, Slater, I think is a monster problem. And I do think the rest of that division is just way too damn strong. It's way too strong. Even the Raiders, who I'm a fan of Pete Carroll. I know that they have deficiencies in a lot of spots on that team. However, he's a damn good coach. They got 4 coaches in this division that are all capable of pulling something. It's remarkable.
They've all been to Super Bowls with several of them winning.
You're damn right. So, no, I don't feel the Chargers make it. I don't think they did enough in the offseason. Losing a star offensive lineman is critical. Now, also, I will say this. Harbaugh, I'm a big fan of what he's done. Herbert has been touted as this magnificent player, but I haven't seen it. on the field where I'm just like overwhelmed with this guy. I like him a lot. I think he's got the size, the arm, everything's there, but it just hasn't happened. Now, I got to say this. He had maybe the worst coach in the world before Harbaugh. I mean, that guy was horrible. And so give him credit for that. He might be a whole lot better than that guy allowed him to be. So
didn't he last year in the regular season under Harbaugh throw like only 3 interceptions the entire season and then had the disastrous playoff game?
He did.
And that's pretty remarkable. 3, I don't know how many touchdowns he had, but 3 interceptions is excellent production. It means you're not giving up scoring drives.
So here's my 6 teams to make it, 7 teams. Bills, Pats, Ravens, Steelers, surprise on the Steelers, I'm sure. Texans, Broncos, and Chiefs. Now, I want to bring up something about the Bills and the Ravens. The first game of the season, I'm really asking this question. It's not a statement. The Bills are touted by most people to be the AFC star team to make the playoffs, make the Super Bowl, and win the Super Bowl. But they're playing at home against the Ravens. And they're 1-point favorite at home against the Ravens.
No respect.
I mean, okay, when you see that, and there's a home field advantage somewhere in here. I don't know what it is, 1 point, 3 points. Some fields have a bigger advantages than others. But isn't the odds maker saying that the Ravens are better when you make that?
They are. Yep.
And could you actually see the Ravens ending up favorite in the game?
At Buffalo or in that game?
They're in Buffalo.
That'd be crazy.
So, I mean, when you're touting the team to be the Super Bowl team, win the AFC, get to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl, and they're opening the season against another AFC team that's pretty damn good, and with your Ravens, and they're only a 1-point home favorite, you're actually saying that the Ravens are rated higher.
Or they're the better team, yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, keep in mind there is
How do we explain that?
There are a couple of injury concerns on the Bills. If that's part of it, they do have major questions even going into the season at corner. And the fact that they are ready to go into the regular season with Tre'Davious White as their starting corner is shocking. But keep in mind, they spent a first-round draft pick on a corner. The corner is on injured reserve. Tre'Davious White, who can't stay healthy, hasn't been healthy in like 5 years, is also banged up and may not even play. So they might be down to their like 3rd or 4th string corner on opening night. And maybe that has something to do with it. So I would just get, but they were already 1.5, as well know Jim, all summer. So I thought they were getting disrespected. So maybe the point that's changed in the last couple of days might be because of those injuries.
So we easily could see the Ravens turning to the favorite.
You could.
But by game time.
Yes.
Remember in the playoff game last year, the 27-25 game at Buffalo, Baltimore was a 1.5-point favorite in that game.
At
Well,
Buffalo.
that's an excellent point Jim brings out about the current line and where those two football teams stand, at least from a power ranking standpoint. I think
power rankings don't win football games, though.
No, they
People
don't.
forget that.
No, they help set lines is what they do.
Yeah.
But, and if they help set lines, what they're basically saying, as Jim said, is the better team here is the Baltimore Ravens. Home field advantage isn't as much as it used to be in the National Football League, at least from a power ranking point rating setup, a situation. But indeed, I think they make the Baltimore Ravens the best team in the AFC. I'm going to share with you guys my division teams and into the championship game so that we can move on here. I think it's rather obvious in the AFC East. It has to be the Buffalo Bills, who I see playing Baltimore in the championship game. Baltimore out of the North. I see Houston out of the South. And I see the Chargers pulling the surprise in the West, knocking Kansas City off. I think Kansas City is going to be in for a bit of a downer year this year. They've got that Super Bowl loser jinx on them. We talked about it on the show last week about how poorly Andy Reid's teams have performed in years after losing a Super Bowl, and they will be targeted. And we all know about how they fared lately here in one-score games, how fabulous they've been. Well, there's a thing called return to the norm or regression, and I think that catches up with Kansas City this football season. On the NFC side of things, I've got the Dallas Cowboys to win the NFC East because if I think they're going to be a vastly improved team this football season here, and Philadelphia will not be the first team in 20 years to repeat as a champion in the NFC East. I think it's the Dallas Cowboys to surprise the Green Bay Packers, who I think play way under the radar. They don't get enough credit for what they've done here. I don't think Jordan Love does either. I think they win the NFC North. I've got let me see. I've got in the South, I've got the Atlanta Falcons. I think they're going to be a major surprise team this football season here. It's all about Michael Penix, and I think his maturation, and we're going to see how he really develops as a quarterback this year. Tampa Bay finally loses a division title. And in the West, I'm going to go with San Francisco and ride those favorite odds to do just that. Would it be 4 wild card teams, Andy, in addition to these 8?
3.
3. Okay.
Well, three in each conference.
3 from each conference. Okay. Well, then from the AFC conference, I've got Cincinnati, and I've got Kansas City here, obviously. And I think New England is too much of a popular, wise guy public team this year. I don't know if Mike Vrabel is all that good of a head coach to put this team from where they've been into the playoffs in the very first year. I think it could be a very, very difficult.
He'll get the most out of his talent, but the talent is barely playoff compatible.
Yeah, everybody I think is getting way too.
I played them under 8.5 wins.
The reason why they're doing this is 100%. It's about the schedule. They're getting way too out of hand about how easy the schedule is. Like if the Patriots are some sort of loaded roster and they should just be able to cruise over all these teams. I mean, I just, it's too much. That's why I even think that they might have a hard time beating Las Vegas on week 1 because all of this pressure, I think, will actually, we're supposed to be this great team. Everybody picks us. Everybody's picking the Patriots, and the Raiders are going to go into that situation with a veteran quarterback. Nobody thinks the Raiders have a chance to be any good this year, and I think that might tell us an awful lot, even that week 1 game.
Yep.
We're going to make the Denver Broncos the 3rd team out of the AFC for the wild card. On the wild card side of things in the NFC, I'm going to put the Philadelphia Eagles in there. I'm going to put the Rams in there. I'm going to put a surprise team in there. I'm going to put the New York Giants to make the playoffs this year. I think this football program is about to turn the corner this year. And again, I think the NFC East is wide open. So that's sort of my take on things. Guys, I want to ask you this question here. Are there any futures, things that we haven't bet on yet that you're entertaining a thought on? A Super Bowl,
Yes.
a season total, an MVP? Anything like that? Andy, go ahead and share with
Greg
me.
pointed out something earlier. He started talking about who's going to finish 1 and 2 in these divisions.
Yes.
And I think that's an excellent way to increase your odds on because you're going to get plus money on all those bets. So if you like the Rams and 49ers, or like Greg said, Rams, Arizona, Rams, Seattle, that's an excellent way to have fun with these divisions. Like you're picking Atlanta to win their division. Well, maybe you'd like Atlanta, Tampa in that order, or Atlanta, somebody else. That type of bet is it's a lot of fun. You're going to get a little bit of plus odds on that because you're basically picking almost like a parlay.
Yep.
And I think that's people out there listening to us. They might look at something like that. You're picking the winner, and you're picking the team you're going to think's going to finish second in that division. It's a fun bet, and you're going to get a little bit of plus odds.
And of course, the parity in some of the divisions makes the odds even a little bit more attractive. In other words, in the AFC East, you got Buffalo. Well, you're probably going to put them on top, and maybe you'll put them on top, and you'll see what the odds are with the Jets finishing second, the Patriots finishing second, and the Dolphins finishing second.
Yeah, you can soften that price up by pairing them up with somebody in that division as well.
I'm going to give you 3 Super Bowl exactas that I've done. I haven't finished them all. I'm going with one matchup, Philadelphia. Well, I'm going to go with what I think the matchup will be, what a dream matchup would be, and then a long shot matchup will be. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
The dream matchup would be Philadelphia and Baltimore, because I think those could end up being the 2 best teams and provide the most. And it's a regional rivalry also. In fact, I'll also throw in one that I played. I don't think it'll have. It has a chance because I have both teams making the playoffs. Chargers, Rams, Rams, Chargers. Okay, so I'll put that in there as like a second attractive matchup.
You're talking about like this, Andy, what I have on the screen? Name the finalists. Yeah. Okay.
No, well, the odds are a little bit better because it's the exact. In other words, not Buffalo versus Philly. It's Buffalo over Philly and Philly over Buffalo, and the odds are about twice the 1,800 that we're seeing there. So I think
double that. Okay, double any of those odds.
Pretty much. Well, a couple of them will be a little bit longer that I'm going to get to. One of the long shot odds. I got two long shot ones: Rams and Chargers. Chargers and Rams. I played those both in the vicinity of 250 to 300 to 1. And I'm going to also put Philadelphia and Baltimore as the one that is most likely to occur. But my long shot one, and I'm going to be playing this one today, two teams that I think have nice young quarterbacks and getting a lot. And I like what some of these teams have done, especially recently. How about the Vikings and the Broncos?
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. I like look. Thielen's reunited with the Vikings. They already had a strong roster. Of course, you got Addison out for the first 4 games. I love the coach. I love what he did with Sam Darnold last year. He got Cousins to take him to the playoffs a couple of years ago, and everybody seems to be extremely impressed with what he's been doing with McCarthy.
2 relatively young quarterbacks there as well.
Yeah.
Jim, it's often been said that if you want to pick a Super Bowl winner, just look at the quarterbacks. The best quarterbacks are the teams that find the promised land. Do you agree with that adage? And if you do, who would you look at to make the Super Bowl as part of your ticket using the quarterback as the premise?
Well, it would have to be Burrow in Cincinnati.
I like that. I like including him.
The only problem is I don't think that saying is exactly accurate. I mean, he could put up 40, 45 points a game with the roster he has, the offensive line,
which we've seen here lately. Yes.
The problem is he might give up 50. Andy said it a couple of weeks ago. Joe Burrow is the modern
reincarnation. Dan Fouts.
The reincarnation of Dan Fouts. I mean, what quarterback was better than Dan Fouts that never got much credit because his defense was so damn bad?
Dan Marino to a certain extent, but
yeah,
I think
Marino got credit.
Coryell for a longer period.
Right.
They did the same damn thing here with Burrow. I mean,
yeah,
terrible. I mean, these quarterbacks are fantastic, but the defense is just.
And they did very little in the offseason to improve the defense. Yes, some draft choices, etc. They finally signed Hendrickson, but he's missed all of training camp. So how long will it take for him to be in NFL Week 1 game shape?
That would be my first choice. And then if you're going to go with the quarterback, I mean, nobody can deny Mahomes. I mean, he's done remarkable. And then if you look at quarterback and coach, you'd have to look at Mahomes and Reed as a potential. I mean, you can't ignore
1-2 tandem. Yes.
It's just how do you ignore them? I mean, they won the division 9 straight times. You're looking at relatively new situations with the other teams in their division, quarterback and coach. The only one that's quarterback and coach that's been there together in the past would be Carroll and Geno Smith. But they were, I mean, obviously that was in Seattle. But you got new situations basically with Harbaugh and Herbert and. So in Denver, you got the same situation. You got new things that have to be worked out. I like the Denver defense really a lot, and I like the head coach a lot, and I liked what I saw from their quarterback a lot. But he is young, and who knows who's going to step off the cliff? Like, if there's one bad streak, these are young guys that make mistakes. So. But I like Denver. I like Denver to upset the Chiefs, but you can't really ignore. And now, they just got a new player on the Chiefs that's not counted on the roster. She's now official.
Taylor.
200. Hey, listen to this. Almost as many followers as we have. 250 million.
Oh, he's getting up there with us, Jim. Yes.
God. Oh my.
By the way, wasn't it Burrow who handed Kansas City one of its rare defeats in an AFC championship game the year the Bengals went to the Super Bowl?
He's a fantastic player. I mean,
He is.
it's really disgusting that people like him and Fouts and stuff, they're wasted on teams.
I think the coach is on the hot seat this year. He may not last the season.
Well, it should be the owner that's on the hot seat. They had to
Yeah, but you can't change the owner.
They had a name. They had to sell the naming rights to the stadium in order to pay them. And the other guys, Chase and Higgins. I mean, this is not a wealthy organization or unwilling to spend like others are. I mean, but they're not as rich as the Rams owner or the Dallas owner when they can spend if they want to. But Dallas is another issue. But I saw that you like the Dallas Cowboys to win their division, Mark.
Yes, I do. Greg, let me ask you this. What odds do you have for this Super Bowl pairing here, okay, for Baltimore and San Francisco?
Well, that's interesting.
Baltimore and San Francisco. 40-1.
40-1. That's my long shot right there.
That's not bad.
And the reason being this, guys, is, and I keep hitting on this, and I know seems like I'm beating a horse to death here, but it's no coincidence that the teams that make the National Football League playoffs year after year after year are the teams that run the football better than anybody else. And it all starts with rushing attempts per game. The two teams that lead the National Football League in rushing attempts per game over the last 5 years are these two teams, San Francisco and Baltimore. That's what Kyle Shanahan will need to do to get the job done and get this football team to do a U-turn this year from last place to first. And I think there's a distinct possibility that they could finish 1-2 in rushing attempts.
The championship exacta for the Ravens over the 49ers, 62-1. 49ers over Ravens, 61-1.
Wow.
Interesting.
Nice.
For two playoff caliber teams.
That's a great idea, Mark. It's a great idea.
So we'll take a look and see what happens. But Greg, I hope you're marking these down because we're going to do a little report card grade when we make the playoffs, when the playoffs roll around.
He said the penalties are very high if we're wrong.
Oh, well, we may forget that show then.
Well, I still need to get like your official picks, not wagers, but I got to get your official championship game and Super Bowl picks. So why don't we do that? Why don't we go around the table and say who wants to start with you want to start, Andy, and who you're going to go with, AFC, NFC championship game, and then Super Bowl?
Well, I said before, I like it to be Baltimore and Philadelphia.
Okay, in the Super Bowl. And do you have a winner?
In the Super Bowl, I will go with Baltimore.
Okay, championship game, Baltimore versus?
I will go with Baltimore versus the Chargers.
Wow, okay.
Harbaugh v. Harbaugh.
Okay, NFL would like that.
That's an intriguing matchup, yes.
Yeah.
And Philly?
And I will say Philly will defeat, well, they did it last year. Let's do it again. The Rams.
Okay, Philly over the Rams. Mark, you want to go next?
Sure. I'll put in the championship games, I'll put Philadelphia and Baltimore from the NFC and the AFC. And I'll put San Francisco and Buffalo. I'm not from those divisions. San Francisco and Philadelphia from the NFC, and Buffalo
and Baltimore
from the AFC. And then as I
Baltimore
mentioned,
and Philly.
No, Baltimore and San Francisco in the Super Bowl.
Oh, okay. So no. Okay.
And your winner, another Harbaugh Bowl. Well, the previous Harbaugh Bowl was with San Francisco, yeah. And the winner?
Harbaugh.
Okay. So Baltimore over San Francisco. And the runner-ups are the Eagles and the Bills. Jim?
Okay, AFC. The Broncos.
Okay. Who are they playing?
Ravens.
Okay.
Ravens win.
Okay. NFC?
Rams against the Bucks.
Ooh.
Okay. Who wins? I like it, of course.
And the Bucks win.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Baltimore, Tampa.
Super Bowl. Bucks beat the Ravens.
That's awesome because we already know that Jim's got that bet. So, and he's got the Baker Mayfield MVP bet, which is what was it, 25-1?
I think I got 28-1.
28-1. Okay, love that. All right.
That, by the way, it's a nice price, but I'm surprised it's not a little higher, considering the quarterbacks listed above him, who, especially those like Mahomes and Allen, even Burrow, you could put there. I mean, I like Tampa. I like Baker Mayfield as a quarterback. I think he's got a great shot. I just wish he had a little bit higher odds, given the competition he has to beat.
I'm giving a lot of credit to Tampa Bay and Baker, because I like their structure. I don't like that Wars got hurt, which is an offensive lineman, but I do expect him to miss little time, hopefully. But I look for a division that I don't feel is competitive, and it will be easier for them to get into the playoffs in a prime situation.
In a 1 or 2 seed.
Right. If you look at these very tough divisions, it's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be hard. There's going to be some tough games down the road. If the Bucs play the way I feel they will, and Atlanta is the only real competitor, play the way I think they'll fall off to do, I think at the end of the season, the Bucs will have an advantage getting ready for the playoffs and in a prime situation. So that's one of the reasons.
Let me ask you, Jim, do you think it'll be easier for Tampa Bay to win its division, given the expected strength of Atlanta, versus Buffalo in the AFC East winning its division?
That's a good question.
No, I think great question, but no, I don't. I think it's probably easier for Buffalo.
Yeah. Yeah, well, again, they're in different conferences, so it could very well be that Tampa Bay could be a 1 or 2 seed, because in the 4 divisions in the NFC, they have, I think, the best chance of winning that division.
I think Atlanta has a much better chance of creating a problem for Tampa than any of the AFC East teams do for Buffalo.
Agreed.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap up here, and I've noticed that I have.
By the way, I'd like to, before we sign off, I know this gentleman, Pat Suzar, thank you for all the comments. We really appreciate it.
Yes, indeed.
So there's 3 teams that are in my Final Four that have not been in any of your Final Fours.
I think I know one of them.
I am going to go with, well, first of all, I'll ask Andy, what team is that?
Minnesota.
No, but that was a good. They're actually in my top value Super Bowl future plays, so they're in there. So the 4 value teams that I have, well, I'll tell you after this. So my AFC championship is going to be, because I know you guys will love this because you just trashed them. Well, you trashed everything about the team except their quarterback. Is I've got the Bengals beating Buffalo in the AFC championship game. Because I actually do believe that the Bengals defense is going to get back to 2023, 2022. I don't think they're going to be pathetic. And then Detroit, that's right, Detroit, because now there's value. And I also think that overall, I get the whole coordinator thing. I think definitely going to affect them. It should, but they're just such talented team. And I think they're a much more structured team now.
And by the way, going with what Mark said, 2 quality running backs to lead the offense. 2,
not just 1.
And I also think Detroit play, Greg.
Detroit will play the Rams. Detroit will beat the Rams in the NFC Championship game, and then I have Detroit beating Cincinnati in the Super Bowl. So, because I will say this, I think that if the 2 coordinators were still there in Detroit, I got a feeling Detroit would be a 7-1 or 6-1 pick to win the Super Bowl.
You know what's amazing, guys? That's the first mention of Detroit we've had throughout this whole entire conversation.
We have to mention they not only lost. I like Detroit a lot. I thought they should have been Super Bowl winners last year, but they got in the injuries at the end of the year on their defense was horrible, and it was nobody's fault. They just all got hurt at the wrong time, and it was cluster injuries, and they got destroyed. But we got to remember too, they lost their center, who's an all-star. I mean, superstar. And that's a tough position to replace. And not only
both of their coordinators.
Yeah, and that's a lot to replace. And that bothers me about them because I really like Detroit a lot. But I think those losses could – I don't know that it will. I don't know that it will, but it might.
Well, they got to stay healthy, that's for sure.
Yes.
Because if they didn't – just imagine being a Lions fan last year all the suffering you've gone through. You've got the team. They're gonna go to the Super Bowl. They're gonna win the Super Bowl. They're playing as good as any team. The only other team playing as good as them were the Eagles. And then all of a sudden, all the injuries occur and their season's over. I mean, that just has to be devastating.
Really bad luck.
Excuse me, Greg. Let me interject this here. You talk about all the suffering the Detroit fans have had. I'm gonna throw another team in there. My hometown Cleveland Browns. Other than Jim Brown and Otto Graham, we haven't had a lot to hold our head on.
Cleveland is one of 5 teams that has never made it to a Super Bowl, although the team that left Cleveland for Baltimore has made it and won it several times.
Yes, they have, but it wasn't Cleveland.
That's just another dagger for long-suffering Cleveland fans.
Yes, it is. Hey,
And
Jimmy,
in fact, Cleveland and Detroit would sort of be like the Red Sox and the Cubs in the World Series.
Oh. Any final thoughts, Jim, before I know you got to bug out? Any final thoughts about the NFL before we head into the regular season?
I'm really excited about week 1. We're going to see a lot about, I've been reading some really good stuff about the totals, and I'm going to be doing some stuff with Victor on totals, and I look forward to that. Is this season going to produce a lot more overs in the first couple of weeks than you would expect? Because normally people will say bet the unders in the first case. The defenses are ahead of the offenses. I'm not too sure that's true. I don't know that that's true. We saw an explosion of overs in the preseason. Granted, there's a lot of replacement players out there and backup players, but the way the offenses are run these days, I mean, very prolific, passing-oriented stuff. We know that in the end, when we get to the Super Bowl and the playoffs, the better teams are the teams that run the ball the best, along with passing effectively. But in the early going, I don't know that that's the case.
Jim, one of the ways that we might be able to get a hint, I'm sure someone out there has probably tracked it from preseason, because we know about all the high-scoring games. How much of the high scoring was due to more offensive starters playing than defensive starters? And perhaps if someone knew what the percentage was for each team, it might be able to explain why we saw certain things. Because I would think that if you had the same number of defensive starters play in the preseason for whatever amount of time and the same number of offensive starters, you might have seen the lower scoring games that we've seen in the past. But I think we've seen a lot more of the offensive starters being rested this preseason.
Well, Jim mentioned he's going to be teaming up with Victor King on Fridays. Him and Victor will do their totals round table on that particular show. And also they'll be handicapping the props, Victor and Jim, every Friday. It'll begin today on Friday, guys. So you want to tune into that. Victor King, Jim Feist, NFL totals and props every Friday here on Proline TV.
You're starting that tomorrow, Jim?
Today, Thursday?
Today's Thursday, yeah.
No, yeah, we are doing it tomorrow.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
That's the communique that I got. It starts 8:29.
Well, actually, Victor wrote an article in the newsletter this week in Playbook, correct? He did. I read it. It's actually very excellent.
Okay.
Was it last week or this week that he wrote the article?
Victor I know he did a preseason one, and I know his totals tip sheet will come out next week when the first week of the NFL comes. I don't think he did anything in the week 1 issue of the week 2 issue of the Playbook, because it's all about college football, this particular issue.
Well, he did an article on props and stuff that we're going to discuss.
Yes, that was an excellent article.
It's in one of your newsletters. I just don't remember which one.
One of the preseasons.
So we're going to be doing that. That's going to be really interesting. I read the article; it's excellent. So pick up the Playbook newsletter. If you go online, playbook.com, I'm sure you can get it there if you don't have it at your newsstand or whatever. But yeah, this is great. I enjoyed this, guys, and we'll look forward to next week and all the stuff that we're going to be doing this year. It's going to be awesome.